Hello, my amazing Algebra Half students. This is Mrs. A, and I love math. So today, we're talking about products of primes and how they help us to cancel. So we're doing lesson 18. And notice that this is not written as a fraction yet, as like one number over another. It's written as a product of prime numbers. And so it's a really big number, but when we look at it, it is going to end up being, okay, 6 times 5 is 30, and 30 times 7 would be 210, right? 210 on the top, and then on the bottom, I'm going to have 6 times 7 is 42, and I'm going to have 42 times 7, or 294 on the bottom. So that was the big number. Okay, so that's the big number. We started out with 210 divided by 294. But notice what they have done. They have factored the number, and when they have factored the number into its prime factors, then we can see that the 2's cancel, the 3's cancel, the 7's cancel, and so our simplified fraction is just down to 5/7. So that is an easy way to simplify fractions. So now let's look at your first example. So your first example is this one. We have 360 divided by 900. And we're supposed to simplify that one. Now, we already know, it's very easy, that we could divide out a 10 on both the top and the bottom. And we could simplify it pretty quickly. But this is one we're going to do strictly by primes, because that's what we're learning today. So I'm going to take the numerator number, which was 360, and I'm going to factor it by primes. So when we're factoring by primes, we're trying to only use prime numbers as divisors. So I know that this is divisible by 2 because the last digit is a 0, which is an even number. So I'm going to put in a 2. And when I do, 2 into 3 is 1 with 1 left over, and the 1 goes in front of the 6 to make a 16. So 2 into 16 is 8. And then I bring down my 0, or 2 into 0 is 0, and I get 180. So when I divide 360 by 2, I get 180. Now I'm going to divide by 2 again because I still have an even number. So I'm going to divide by 2 again. And when I do, 2 goes into 18 9 times, and then we have a 0. So we bring down our 0 and we have a 90. Well, 2 still goes into 90, but so does 3. And 3 is a prime number, so I'm going to use 3 this time. So 3 goes into 90 30 times. And 3 goes into 30, and 3 is a prime number. So we're only putting prime numbers out here. So 3 goes into 30 10 times. And I know that 10 is 2 times 5. And 2 and 5 are prime numbers. So now I'm going to write this product of primes in order. So I'm going to put 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 3 times 5. And I'm going to write that right here on the top part of this original fraction we had. So we had 2, I'm going to use the little dots because they take up less room. 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 3 times 5. Okay, so I am just taking these factors that we just figured out, and we had 3 2's, 2 3's, and a 5. 3 2's, 2 3's, and a 5. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my little divisor sign under here, and I'm going to go to another board and find out what are the factors of 900. So here we come over here to another board where we have 900, and we're going to find all the factors of 900. Well, 900 is divisible by 3. So I'm going to start with 3 because it's just easy that way. 3 goes in 900 300 times. And 300 is again divisible by 3, and I get 100. So 100 is divisible by 2, and I divide 100 by 2, and I get a 50. And 50 is divisible by 5. And when I divide 50 by 5, I get a 10. And 10 is 2 times 5. And there we have our board. So now let's see what we have. 2 times 2 times 3 times 3 times 5 times 5. Okay, so we're going to write those down. So I'm going to come over here to this board, and I'm going to write 2 times 2 times 3 times 3 times 5 times 5. Okay, got a little crowded there. 2 times 2, 3 times 3, and 5 times 5, which I just got from this board. So now I've transferred it down here. So now let's go over and get a different color, okay, so that you can better see our cancellation. So now everything that's the same on the numerator and the denominator, we can cancel. So here we have a 2, and here we have a 2. Okay, so we have a 2 and a 2. So now we've got a what? A 3 and a 3. So we've got an extra 2 up there we can't cancel. A 3 and a 3 and a 3 and a 3. So now we have 1 5 on the top, but 2 5s on the bottom. So 1 5 on the top, 1 5 on the bottom, and look how much of that number canceled. So now on the numerator, all I have left is a single 2. Okay, and on the denominator, all I have left is a single 5. So that number simplifies to 2/5. That big number up here, 320 divided by 900, winds up simplifying to 2/5. And let me tell you, that is fun to do. So now we're going to do another one. So this is the example that follows that one. It's the last example, and after that we're going to do some practices. So we're supposed to evaluate or simplify 42 over 78. So we're going to start by dividing 42. So 42 is obviously divisible by 2 because the last digit is even. When I divide 42 by 2, I get a 21. And then I divide the 21 by a prime number. Well, I know that 3 is prime, and 3 goes into 21 and leaves me a 7. I'm done. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and write this one down here. 42 over 78, and I'm going to go ahead and write these in order. 2, 3, 7. So 2 times 3 times 7. Now we're going to go to another board, and we're going to do the 78 on the other board. So here's the other board, 78. 78 is even, so let's divide it by 2. Okay, and 78 divided by 2 is going to be 39, because if I added 2 to this, I'd get an 80, and half of 80 is 40, so half of 38 is going to be 39. Okay, so then I can see that a 3 goes into 39. So I'm going to put in a 3, and 3 goes into 3 one time, 3 goes into 3 three times. I get a 13 left. And 13 is a prime number, isn't it? So 2 times 3 times 13 is the number 78. So here we go back to our other board. 2, 3, 13. 2, 3, 13 is the number 78. So now I can easily go through, and we'll get another color here, and simplify the fraction 42 over 78, divide the common 2's and the common 3's, and 42 over 78 is equal to 7 over 13. 7/13 is the simplified fraction. So now we're going to do some practice problems. Okay, so here we are with 2 practice problems, and then you get to go do your homework. So here what I want you to do is copy down 84 over 90. This is practice A. And then I want you to pause your video. Okay, so I'm going to do all the work on this board and then transfer it over. So hopefully you went off and did it and have figured out what this one is already. But we're going to put 84 up here. 84 is even, so we're going to divide by 2. And 2 into 84 is going to give me 42. And I'm going to just go ahead and divide it into 2 again. Divide it by 2 and I get 21. Divide 21 by 3 and I get a 7. So 2 times 2 times 3 times 7. So what we're going to do is we're going to write that right here. 2 times 2 times 3 times 7. And then we're going to take our eraser and give ourselves some more room to write. So everybody see that one before I erase it. I've put the factors up there. 2, 2, 3, 7. So there goes 84. And so now we're going to write 90. Okay, 90 is an even number, so I could divide it by 2, but I'm going to divide by 3, just to mix it up a little bit. Divide by 3. 3 into 90 is 30. And 3 goes into 30 with 10. And 10 is 2 times 5. So remember, we write these in order. So 2, 3, 3, 5. We put them right under here. 2 times 3 times 3 times 5. Okay, so now that I've gotten all of those written down, I will erase this right here. And now we will simplify by canceling the numbers. Okay, so here's what we have, and now we're going to cancel the like terms. So we have a 2 and a 2. We have a 3 on the numerator and 1 3 on the denominator can cancel. And then, can you see anything else? We were able to cancel out 2 factors, but we're done, all right? Because there's no 2 to match, there's no 3, there's no 7, there's no 5. So we're left with 14 over 15. And that is as simple as we can get that fraction. That is the correct answer. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing for 105 over 287. But this is a practice, so pause your video. Okay, I hope you did that. And so we're going to start here with 105. And we're going to do it right there. Now, 105 is divisible by 5. So let's just divide it by 5. 5 goes into 10 2 times, and 5 goes into 5 1 time. So we get a 21, which we know is a 3 times a 7. So we can write these in order: 3, 5, 7. 3 times 5 times 7 divided by. So now we're going to have to go figure out what 287 is. Okay, so 287. And this is where doing a little bit of what we learned about multiplication and multiples. And so when we're looking at this number is divisible by 7, isn't it? Can you see the 7 in the 28 there? So I'm going to divide by 7 and see what the other factors are. But that's just the one that popped out at me. So 7 goes into 28 4 times evenly. And then 7 goes into 7 1 time. Guess what? There were no other factors, right? 7 was the only factor because 41 is prime. So over here, we're going to write 7 times 41. Okay, so now this is a very useful tool because the only factor the two have in common is a 7. And 7s are relatively difficult to find when you are simplifying fractions. So we're going to cancel the 2 7s, and we wind up with 15 divided by 41 as our final answer. So here's your board just a little bit closer, and 15 over 41 is the final answer. And that's how easy it is to cancel by prime factoring. So we're going to do the prime factoring, which is this method right here, where we find all the prime factors and then we put them in order and we cancel what we can. And that is very easy and fun to do. And this is Mrs. A. And may God bless your day.